Bring you this now. Marshalltown Fire survivors are demanding compensation, and this comes after heavy rains had flooded their temporary shelters at the Denver informal settlement. They were moved to this area after a fire had destroyed the Usindiso building in the Joburg CBD, and most have once again lost everything.
It is truly a tragedy upon tragedy. These are people who have only begun to rebuild their lives after surviving a tragic fire at Marshalltown, where they lost everything. Many of them, they lost their loved ones. They lost what mega assets they had. Now, few months on the line, they are faced heavy rains, which resulted in flooding because of the terrible housing conditions at Denver informal settlement. We have a situation where, because of the flooding, people's shacks are unlivable because their beddings are wet. So is their food and everything that they have. Their streets are unwalkable. And I think that has simply aggravated the situation in which they were even before. The reality is that the city officials, I think their attitude says something about the contempt of the elite for the poor in this country. Let's recall that when the Marshalltown Fire occurred, what we had by way of reaction from the city, but also the entire political establishment, was the bashing, was the scapegoating of the migrants and the victims of this fire for their misfortune and the tragedy, instead of taking the responsibility. Now, since that time, we've had a demonstrations. We submitted the memorandum as a Marshalltown Fire Justice campaign, but there's not been any response. There's not been any willingness to engage with us because there were a number of issues that were raised. One was that these victims and survivors need to be adequately compensated.